Okay, we are live. I think there's like a little delay as
A
far as
little delay.
yeah for the YouTube to finally come on.
Okay.
But
Come on.
I'm looking and I'm not seeing this on YouTube yet. But it
I'm
will
in
catch
Janine's
up.
world.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
in
in
Janine.
Janine's world, and we
Yes, please.
are live. Okay, so tonight I
Yes.
have my wonderful friend Thom Woodruff,
Yeah.
aka Thom the Poet. Is there
Yeah.
anything else I need to add to that? What's another AKA?
Spirit Tom, Radio Tom, Lucky Tom, Happy Tom, Poor Tom, Rich Tom, any old Tom at all,
Any old Tom at
but not
all.
automaton. This is live.
Yeah, so I'm so happy to have him with me tonight. Uh, Now, I met Thom. Was that 2018, Thom?
I think so. That's 4 years ago.
Yeah. So I met Thom. Yeah, I met Thom in 2018. I met him at a library in Austin, Texas. What was going on? Who was hosting that? It was a poet. It was a poetry event. Who was
Was it
hosting that?
Recycled Reads? Was that the one?
Recycled Reads.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would have been Louise Richardson.
Okay. Yeah. So
And
she was hosting that.
mhm.
And how did we start talking?
Well, we just seem to instantly like each other. And later on, I find out you're this incredibly talented opera singer and all these other skills and podcaster. I didn't know any of that, but I really knew that you were a person of integrity and charisma. And I like those people.
Did who walked up to who? Did I come sit by you? I'm trying to
I don't
remember.
know. Let's make up stories. Yes, you came and sat by me, and then I came up and sat by you because we have so many things to talk about. It's going to take several lifetimes to catch up. It's really true, and the enjoyment of each other's company has been consistent whenever we meet. The laughter happens, and the wild birds of delight fly off to the universe.
Oh, okay. He's so colorful with his words and his descriptions. I
Yeah,
love it. I absolutely love it.
I'm
And
so glad.
so let's get into it. You
Sure,
are from Australia, correct?
absolutely right, mate.
Oh my! Now see now you made that Australian accent thick. I've never heard you talk like that before.
Well, I really don't because I find the true Australian accent is it's like a flow. It's very harsh. I don't want to
Hmm.
be harsh, so I soften it. But I can give you a poem in the Australian language by my friend Kenneth Smeaton if it will show you what the Cockney style language dialect is. If you'd like to hear one.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, this is by Kenneth Graham Smeaton. It's called "Now Pour Me, Mate." Now, pour me, mate. He's your Dinkum Bonzer type, and he's blue for a fair crack of the whip. And I've never seen his photos ever since his puberty youth. Don't reckon he's changed a whisker. Don't reckon he could, God's truth. Now, Paul and me, we've been in this stinking hole a while, but I never thought I'd live to see the day too remote to cross me flaming Aussie brain when that drongo Casanova couldn't raise a smile. Well, I said, what's wrong with this? And he says, oh, life's really crook. I remember a man clue to the plan when I was stuck with something to say. If the blues get away with you and the dreams you dream get further than time seems, just live a little longer, son. Just live a little stronger, son. By Kenneth Graham Smeaton in the Cockney Australian style.
Wow. You speak in English, right?
No, I'm speaking Antipodean. This is Australian style. I mean,
Uh,
I'm a Queensland boy, full of Queensland joy. Squeeze me, I'm a man. Go and squeeze this watermelon, man. I got rock mountain. I got passion, fruit me, ripe me, sugar cane me. Coal go Japan, I go to Dole Q. I do as government tells me to. I don't need daylight savings. I free to be a giant strawberry, giant pineapple, giant skin cancer. I'm a Queenslander.
wow. That's
You
all I can
know,
say to that. Wow.
thank you.
Tom,
Jim. Yes.
how did you start writing? How and when did you start
Uh,
writing poetry?
well, that's the whole point. I never started writing poetry. I started what you're hearing now, a loquacity, vernacular, rhythmic rap of, unwrapping, I call it. And that happened. I went to an aquarium festival in way once upon a time land. And I just, it was preparing for the future, right? That was a festival. It was in Nimbin, the village of Nimbin in the Mullumbimby rainbow region, which is has rainforests and waterfalls. So it's a magical place, but it's an Aboriginal initiation center, and you
Hmm.
need to go there, transform, and leave. And unfortunately, the hippies stayed there, and eventually that degenerated into heroin and violence and that. But I visited and left, and I had this little bug because I got up in this old buttery, converted barn, and I just started chanting. This is your life. This is your life. Don't waste the time. Don't waste the time. Get up and dance. Get up and dance. This is your life. Don't waste the time. And after about 4 hours of that, musicians came and played behind me, and people danced to it. So I
Wow.
thought, this is the way to live. And
Hmm.
then I went back and went to my Bob Mudd, my friend for 50 years. He had a commune in North Melbourne, and he had musicians and artists and everyone there. So I said, could we do poetry there? And he said, yeah, of course. So we had what's called Poor Tom's Poetry Band, and we had three really strict rules. The first rule was anyone who turned up was in the band. The second rule was never repeat yourself, and the third rule was ignore the first two rules. So it
Wow.
was it's a great discipline. So
Uh-huh.
we'd have up to 14 people in the band, and we had a theme song called "We Are Alive," and it just used the 14-year-old bass player called Andre. We had a magician on bongos. We had a Jewish rabbi on guitar, and we had several singer-songwriters and a singer called Diney Slamet, who's our first record was paid for by Christian Television Association, and it was by Diney, and the song was "I'll travel with you, be as I should, long as you show me the way." And it was a beautiful thing, and we were in the studio, and it's the first time I heard our voices through a good sound system. And that was another transformational moment to realize that sometimes technology can actually assist the human voice, because I think the human voice is the highest altar. I don't trust silence because it can be peremptory silence, angry silence, disgusted silence, judgmental silence. So I like voice is the choice of our species, and we communicate by sound and by listening is the first prayer, respect is the second. So you tend to open your oracles to oracles if they are worthy of respect. So I thought of starting a listening academy. First year, you will just listen to the air and hear what the air
Mm.
has to say. The second year, you'll listen to the trees as they play with the wind. The third year, you'll listen to the sea. And postgraduate studies, you listen to everyone and everything.
Wow. I like that. You listen to the air and then
Yeah.
you said listen to the air,
Yeah. And then the
listen to the
trees
trees, and then the
as they play
ocean.
with the wind, and then the ocean, because they're all primal elemental parts of us. I mean, our brain is like a cerebellum, like a tree upside down, the cerebral cortex. If you look at it, it is like a beautiful canopy. And the trees over Austin are ancient and old and need to be replaced as soon as possible. And there was a poet, Susan Bright, who had a feminist press called Plainview Press, and she was in Austin and swam every day at Barton Springs.
Hmm.
And she went to the city council and she said to them, look, I know you want to save Barton Springs from the pollution that's here, but you don't understand. The trees are in love with the water, and the water is in love with the trees, and it's an alchemical wedding. So you can't save the water unless you also save the trees, which are
Hmm.
elders, and they are dying because of lack of love and care. So they passed the historic elder tree ordinance, which says if it's 28 inches in diameter, you can't chop it down. You have to transport it to somewhere else or find replacements. And that has saved a few trees in Austin thanks to that poet tree.
Okay. Well, okay. So how did you get from Australia to America?
Well, via
When and when and when?
Okay, way back. I work with musicians. I love musicians because Leonard Bernstein said that poetry and music are parallel but not equivalent languages. With music, your whole body can absorb the music, the sounds of opera singing, the sounds of the musical accompaniment. But with poetry, you have to ask, what is he babbling on about? What's he really saying? So it's a second order phenomenon. The first order is, of course, apprehension. The second is integration. So it's not easy to, that's why so few people practice poetry, because you have to think and feel, and sometimes the feelings must come first. E.
Mm-hmm.
Cummings said that. But I work with an ecofeminist band called Mother Gong. I've worked with the following famous bands: Gong, Mother Gong, Teratoma, Glosso Babble, the Invisible Opera Company of Tibet, Kangaroo Moon, and my bands, We Are Alive and Poor Tom's Poetry Band, and lots of others. But the thing is, that doesn't matter. What matters is first thought, best thought. In other words, in the moment, right now, this is the creative flux. So I work with them. And for instance, we were doing a show with Mother Gong because they were about to go out on tour from Melbourne, which is where I was based, where I did my street poetry and things like that for about 10 years, give out poetry on the street. And a guy comes up and says he was grieving because his mother had just died.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, he told me all about his mother dying, how much he loved his mother. And then he said, by the way, what are you doing? I said, well, we're going to England tomorrow to do a tour. And he said, do you have anywhere to stay? I said, no. Nah. And he said, you can stay at my place. So I stayed at his place. I mean, I stayed at his place. The band had other places to stay. And one magical day, we go for a walk, and we're in this park in Eltham, near central London. And I said, "This is amazing. This is the highest priced real estate in the world, apart from Tokyo. And there's this big park here. Why is it such a big park in the middle of the most densely populated part of England?" And he said, "Do you know where you are?" And I've heard that from policemen before, but and I said, "No, where are I?" He said, "Underneath your feet, that's where they buried the Black Plague people."
Mm.
And I realized I was walking on dead people.
Mm-hmm.
So that made me really aware of Indigenous requirements to have proper respect for antecedents and ancestors. Like at the current moment in Texas, they're trying to recognize that there are bodies at the Alamo of Indigenous people, and they need to be reburied in a sacred manner.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the University of Austin by invitation for the people there, and there are bodies buried at the University of Austin, and they want those bodies reburied in a sacred manner. But
Mm-hmm.
real estate says you can't listen to spirit. So my latest name is Spirit Tom, because I don't think there's anything more important than spirit. So the short story goes like this. So I go over there and I'm with them, with Mother Gong, and I'm on a couple of CDs with Mother Gong and with Gong and Kangaroo Moon and other bands, especially Invisible Opera Company of Tibet. And we're making it up as we go along. Did the Glastonbury Festival, did Ways to Play, did all those festivals. And I was a poet in residence in Yorkshire Libraries, and I was a poet in residence in Wales, where the local poets were really angry because they said, "Why can't you get a Welsh poet in?" But what they don't know is Dylan Thomas, their famous Welsh poet, couldn't speak Welsh.
Mm.
So I was twice removed from reality in that regard. So I've always had a projection of possible positive fantasy as a way to skim the surface of deepness. Stay shallow, superficial, and slick, and maybe you'll get to the other side. So I'm there now talking to you. And yeah. Well, actually, the rest of it is a shorter story because okay, we're going round, and of course, poetry doesn't make money, bands don't
Right.
make money, and so I do poetry in schools in Texas when we're coming through Texas because we did Cleverland, Cleveland, and California and places like that with Mother Gong,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm doing it at this place in Texas where they kill people. What's that place called? Huntsville, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
At Huntsville, there's a place, Stewart Elementary, and I'm doing poetry, which I do so sing along stuff and
Mm-hmm.
chorus poems, the oldest poems, sing along, and I get this I get this powerful whole body attraction to the person behind me, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, I'm professional. This isn't happening, but it was. So then we had correspondence and bankruptcy by phone call from Texas to Australia. And I come back again with a different person, David Allen, and we connect again and have to work out, well, where are we going to live, Australia or America? America is all war and guns and violence, and Australia doesn't need counselors. So we thought San Francisco, but San Francisco has got 101% occupancy. It's got no more space to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So Austin, where people can read, write, and chew gum, and sometimes multitask while they're driving into I-35 gridlock, we're here, and that's been since 1992. And when I come here, I think this is the capital of Texas, and they don't have a poetry festival. What's
Mm-hmm.
with that? So I
Right.
went to, I went to the places. Let me tell you, Janine, because it's important. This is the source of for me, Austin. I went to Houston Tillotson College,
Mm-hmm.
where they had people who were genuinely interested in the Harlem Renaissance and in contemporary performance poetry. I went to Resistencia bookstore where Raul Salinas was championing the Puerto Rican and the Chicano poets, which
Mm-hmm.
was sort of really fresh work then. And my home became Chicago House on the corner of Sixth and Trinity. In the 1880s, in this bluestone double-story building, the guy that has the pun off every year, he's dead now, of course. Lots of books and stories. Well, he used to do salons and soirees of Gilbert and Sullivan. So two women who loved each other, Peggy and Glenda, both of whom have passed to the great concert in the sky, set up this place called Chicago House, and they had musicians downstairs and things like plays and poetry on a Monday night, I think it was, and I just absolutely fell in love with the idea of open living and free, where people could come and share whatever they liked and be heard, because that's what people really need to be heard, because they've all got a song, a little bird in their heart, and the bird wants to join the sky and has to fly with the other birds. So that we met before the reading and thought, well, what do we do? And we thought, why don't we do a festival? And the first festival was in 1993, and we had nothing. We didn't have a car or anything at all. So I paid my hippie friend Vern, who's gone past into the fjords, 50 cents to get to a poetry venue like Resistencia or Houston Tillotson and invite the poets to meet. Now, my fellow friend, who's now in Buenos Aires, that's Sue Littleton, a really, really wonderful poet, whose famous work is called Corn Woman, about the influence of corn on the first world, because people didn't treat corn with respect, so they got diarrhea and pellagra. And she wrote a book about the 300 varieties of corn in the old world, and it's down to Kellogg's having one or two because they've just made this commercial product called corn, which
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have multicolored purple corn or sacred corn. Anyway, that's where she was. So she was on the board of Mexicate Museum, and because of that and her friendship with Sylvia Orozco, who's still there, we started the festival in the same place as the Austin Acoustic Music Festival, which I'd been to and sat there for 3 days watching these incredible musicians, like they have a Buddhist singer, followed by a bagpipe band, followed by an Indian sitar, followed by a church choir. It was absolutely astonishing to me that everyone could be so eclectic and so equal,
Mhm.
because it was $10 a day, and you could just be there all day. So I did, and that was the model for me of the poetry festival, all volunteer, and any money we made went to the people who came the longest way. And people surprisingly came. It was in Easter 1993. Now, everyone leaves at Easter, right? It's all family time and that. So we survived Easter, and everyone thought, well, we went around the restaurants and begged the restaurants for food, and we fed the poets. The
Mhm.
poets from overseas or the poets from interstate, they stayed at our homes, right? So we opened our home and heart to people who were coming to be part of something bigger than themselves. And it survived. They were fed, they were sheltered, they were cared for, and whatever trinkets of money we got at the door, we gave to them.
Mhm.
Now, those people, if they're still alive, will share the stories of those times, but we don't live in those times.
Mhm.
The festival hasn't been on for 2 years because volunteering during a pandemic is sort of
Right.
like, right?
So it didn't happen this year because I kept trying to find
Did
the
not happen
awesome.
this year. No, did
Yeah,
not.
yeah, because I kept trying to find it, and so yeah,
That's
so
what
it did
we have.
happen this year.
We've
Okay.
got to bless and release. We do what's possible. What got organised is a respect reading, a remembrance reading on April 25th at Quacks in Manchac from 6 to 9. All the poets who were examples to us of an incredible love and compassion, like Herman Nelson, Patricia Fisk, John Berry, Barbara Carr. The list is endless. People you may never meet until you hear their poetry. Like,
Mhm.
I still give away the poetry of Deb Akers. She did the children's anthology for the poetry festival. She set up poetry readings at Bookwoman, and they're still going after
Mhm.
28 years, still going, and done by Cindy Heisen now, who's a magical poet.
Mhm.
And all these people need to be explained and shared with their poetry and their lives. People who don't know and never have experience, because we want them to know that goodness can live in this world, no matter
Mhm.
how strange and disturbed the vibration is. Somewhere there's clear water, clear air, clear people.
Wow, that was a lot. Does anybody out there? I'm at a loss for words because I'm trying to dissect everything that you said. But I did like the part where you said that there is good in this world. Um, that's something that I have to constantly remind
Yes.
myself that there is good in the world.
Yeah.
That's a ongoing
Have,
struggle
hmm
that I have been having to try to remember that. I don't know about anybody else out there, but that's something I've been really trying to focus on. That just yes, there's a war going on, and you turn on the news, that's all you hear is
hmm
about the war. So, and then of course, there's constant shootings in America because this is everybody has a gun here. Not
Well,
everybody, but not
no.
everybody, but a lot of people have guns here, and so you turn on the news and you hear about gun violence and uh, the war. And so a lot of times, I just I might just read a headline and then that's it because I get overwhelmed by the violence that is happening in this country, and of course COVID.
Oh yeah.
I probably shouldn't say that on here because YouTube is real funny when you say that word. Let me not say that word. I won't repeat that word. But
No.
of course with what's going on. So Jerry Boy TV says hi from Scotland, my friend.
Wow, wonderful. Yay. Return.
Good. Thank you for joining us, Jerry Boy. But yeah, for those of you
I
who
gotta
just
share this
oh
with you. about
You freezing up. You
Scotland,
freezing up, Thom.
right?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Thom.
Uh, yeah.
Uh-oh. You froze up for a second. Go ahead. Go ahead, Thom. Oh no.
What happened?
I don't know. It
I
froze.
don't
I
freeze.
can hear
I
you.
don't freeze. I can I can
Thom.
see the frame, the frame, can't see you, and
Oh no. Thom froze up. Oh no.
so he took down the partition between the two classrooms, and I did poetry to two classes at once. Scottish people are so real, you know, they're absolutely real because they've had to fight for independence, and Texas fought for independence. But the other thing about the guns, I lived in a dormitory suburb in Melbourne where I did street poetry for about 10 years, giving out poetry on the street, on the main street of the town.
Thom, let me stop you
And
for
the
one
magic,
second. Thom,
yeah,
can you hear me?
yes,
Go back to what you were
I can
saying
hear
about
you.
Scotland because you froze up for like a second. So go back and
Oh, okay,
say
sure.
what you say about
I
Scotland.
was doing poetry in okay. I did poetry. I did twice at least. Been with the bands you've never heard of, like Hawkwind and Kangaroo Moon and Gong. Anyway, I I got to do poetry in the schools there, and the Scottish teacher comes up and says, "We're paying you a lot of money. Can you do two classes at once?" And I said, "Sure." So he took apart the partition between the two classrooms, and I turned this way and I turned that way and did poetry for two classes at once. After all, I'm a Gemini, and so am I. So, and the other thing I found was I like Edinburgh, but I really love Glasgow because Glasgow has got that sort of train spotting wildness to it. Like you come out from a gig and it's midnight and and Saturday night, and there's all these guys on the street and they're all drunk as skunks and they're punching each other, saying, "I love you, man. No, I love you, man. I love you. No, I love you." And I thought, this is primal. This is good. And the gun thing. I had a massacre outside my home called the Hoddle Street Massacre. And I'd been doing a poetry reading for a benefit for the poets in prison. And I come home
Okay,
at night.
outside your home in Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And it's 9 o'clock at night. I've finished the poetry reading, which is another benefit. And there's a helicopter in the sky. And I think, oh, they're filming an Australian movie. No worries. I wake up the next day and find out a 21-year-old called Julian Knight got drunk, dressed up in army uniform, and took pot shots at people on the highway and killed people just randomly. Okay. So that's like your country, about 1 millionth of what's happening every day in your country. So we, the people of Clifton Hill, which is a dormitory suburb with parks and gardens and peaceful people, 6 months later, closed the highway down, Hoddle Street, on a Sunday, formed a circle, planted 3 trees on one side, 3 trees on the other. So it formed a circle of trees over the killing zone. We all held hand. There were 300 of us, and screamed and cried and sang. And it expunged the grief, because grief is like anger internalized, and you have to really let it out. Otherwise, it eats you apart. And we reconsecrated that space to peace and love and harmony and connection and community. So that what I'm saying is there's a lot of grieving in this country that needs to be expunged, and not with weapons, with
Mm-hmm.
ritual, with magic, with love, care, connection, and communication. And that's where poetry as part of the healing process, when people can release the wild birds and watch them fly.
Okay, so Jerry Boy TV says, "Thank you, my friend. I come from Glasgow,
I
Glasgow."
love Glasgow. Yeah, wild boys of Glasgow. Yeah.
And he says, "And yeah, they do get very drunk in Scotland."
He's right. That's why they named it Scotch.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions that they want to ask? Let's wait for a couple of seconds to see if somebody wants to ask a question. Okay. Okay. There's like a second delay,
No
Tom.
problem.
I'm doing the Jeopardy theme, waiting to see if somebody wants to ask a question.
That's fine. I don't watch TV. TV watches me.
Oh, TV watches you. This sounds about right. Go, you sleep, so you sleep with your TV on?
I don't watch TV at all. I just it's an empty vacuum.
Oh, okay. Okay. I get what you're saying. Okay. Okay, so I haven't had any questions yet. So let's move on.
Sure.
Do you want to do some improv poetry, Tom?
Okay, I'll make it up as well. Are you ready?
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna name a topic. We did
Okay.
this Monday. We are involved with this group. It's a we all meet on Zoom, and
Yeah.
somebody would throw out a topic, and then we make up a poem according to the topic.
Correct.
So let me think. Let me think of a topic here. Ooh, does anybody have any ideas for a topic that they think I should say that you think you want to hear a poem on?
What's the most important thing to you?
Oh, somebody said he is really interesting. He has seen a lot in his life, done a lot of interesting things. Okay. Uh, let me think. What's a good topic? Forbidden love.
Forbidden love. All love is forbidden love. All the rules are bent and broken. Most love songs are not love songs, they're love failures. And that's why the howling is part of the loving. That's why the separation anxiety, fear, and paranoia is part of the loving. That's why the breakup is part of the loving. The passion is stirred, the teardrops fall when we can't find a way to live with one and all.
Wow, that's good, Tom. Okay,
Good.
somebody just asked a question. As a teenager, did you like poetry? And if so, did he do any plays? Okay.
Good. No, when I was young, I listened to the Beatles, and that was my poetry, and I love their harmonics. And I didn't grow up in a poetic environment. I grew up in working class. You work, you live, you serve, and it came from internally, and it was activated when I went to a place where everyone was celebrating the affirmative nature of the future. In other words, at this Down to Earth festival, which was another series of festivals I went to, we'd have a poets camp, there'd be a lesbian camp, an activist camp, an anarchist camp, a permaculture camp, and a musicians camp. And the musicians would keep playing the whole 3 or 4 days. The poets would keep performing on stage and between the musicians, and everything was to prepare for the coming harmonics. Because I want to believe and I project that this temporary aberration of conflict and fear is a blip on the radar of clear signals.
Okay. Do anyone else have another question they want to ask? Okay. Let me see. Let me throw out another one. Let me throw out another topic. Let me
Sure.
think. Radio waves.
Radio waves. Now, look, it's a TV world. Everyone's eyes are hypnotized by the TV. The TV eye makes your mind die. But I am a 12-inch speaker, walnut cabinet radio. I'm a radio man. I am listening to the oracles of your oracles inside your inner ear. You can see me there. I've got inside your hearing aids. I've got past the blocks of saying, I don't want to hear this because you want to hear this. I'm a radio man. I beam community.
Wow, I like that. I like that. Video killed the radio star. Video killed the radio star.
Watch out for YouTube. Copyright.
Oh yeah, whoop, whoop. Maybe I should have said. But I didn't sing the whole song. I just sang 2 lines.
Okay, yeah, 16 bars.
Yeah, I
So
didn't sing the whole song.
my poetry is on co-op radio during National Poetry Month. Okay,
Mhm.
and I've got other poets on co-op radio, which is 91.7, I think, FM. It's also co-op.org. So if you want to hear poetry, the only place you can hear it in is non-commercial radio and community radio. And we have people who are in there who really get it, that poetry is meant to be heard person to person. It's not made for Zoom. It's not made for computers. It's not made for television. It's person to person, sitting around a little circle, sharing their stories, passing the story stick on, and then listening again, because listening is the first prayer. Respect is the second.
Wow. So let's see. Okay, we're getting ready to just close it down.
What?
So
So soon?
huh?
So soon? We just started.
If you want to talk some more, I'll let you.
Oh, thank you. But it's a conversation. It's no
Oh,
good just
okay.
me yammering
Okay.
on.
Oh, okay then. Let me see. I want people to ask questions, and nobody's asking questions. I only had two people ask some questions.
Well, they're listening, which is really good.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I share
So
with what's happening now?
go ahead.
Okay. Austin used to have an open poetry mic every night. COVID killed that because you couldn't gather. But we're
Right.
getting back together for National Poetry Month, and starting with a book, an anthology that the Georgetown Poets, that's Poetry Out Loud, which is on Zoom every Saturday morning from 10 to 1 Texas time, is going to be launched next Saturday. And then Sunday, apart from next Sunday, we normally do for the last 13, 14 years, spoken and heard at Kick Butt Coffee Shop, 5775 West Airport in Austin, Texas. And that's a place for everyone. And what we normally do is invite everyone on stage and just say, whatever you want to say it now before it gets censored. You can't talk about unicorns or transgendering in Texas. And you can't talk about real Texas history, because real Texas history mentions indigenous wisdom and black wisdom and Spanish wisdom and songs and cultures that we are monocultural, mono-oral, monotonous. So that's happening. Quacks is a beautiful new coffee shop on Manchac. So Monday, we're doing the memorial reading to respect our elders, the poets who have passed. And that's from 6 to 9 next Monday, which I think is the 25th of April. And then on Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going back to New World Delhi, which was a place for poetry in the Austin Poetry Society for umpteen years until of COVID. Now that's from 4 to 6. And then we've got Lazy Days, which is a head shop, CBD shop. And the Thursday, we have what's called instant anthology. And it works like this. You come along, Molly gives you prompts, and we write to them, and then make copies and staple it together. And everyone who's part of it gets a copy of the anthology. And someone takes pictures, and the pictures are the cover. So you can make your own books by doing this, just by instantly stapling your ideas together and giving it back freely to whoever's part of it.
So everything he's talking about is in Austin, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Because we live in Austin, Texas. So everything he's talking about is local Austin events. So just to let everybody out there know. So, have you written any books? That's a good question.
I've done 182 books.
Are they okay? Are they all self-published or through publishers?
Self-published. I don't do publishers.
And why don't you do publishers?
Because you are edited, censored, cut down, and I want to build up, not be cut down. And if you publish yourself, which a lot of authors have done and are doing now, particularly through that horrible Amazon.
Let's go back. Let's roll back. Let's wait a minute. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Well, Jeff Bezos, he's got millions of dollars to fly in space, but not to give his workers an adequate living wage. He's against the unions. He's against the workers. So I don't like that.
So, you realize he's not running the company anymore, right?
Well, the fact is his principals still run the country. They still run the corporation.
You said it right. You said country.
Did I say something? Did I say something serious and significant? I'm shallow and superficial. So we know Everyone's feeling the pain of the age we're living in. But I want to flip the turtle over so the turtle can get back on its feet. This is Turtle Island after all, and realize that there's turtles all the way down.
Okay, so people who don't know, Turtle Island was the original name of America before it was named after, was it an explorer named
Amerigo
America?
Vespucci. Yeah.
Right. So those of you guys who don't know, that was the original name of America.
Yep.
Okay.
So the wisdom of indigenous people are things like the potluck, the potlatch, the circles. People say, but the tribes never discovered the wheel, but they did. They had the medicine wheel, and it was used for healing and honoring all the directions. When I went to the University of Texas, we honored the 6 directions, and everyone told me there were only 4, but there's north, south, east, and west.
What do you mean 6 directions? Explain that.
Well, okay, Native American people understand that there are more than 4 directions, right? There's north, south, east, and west. When we started the festival, we had a shield which had north, south, east, and west as a way of saying poetry is universal. It's a world language. It belongs to everyone. It's an Esperanto of the spirit. What they also said to me was there's also above and below. There are 6 directions at least.
Right. Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's not me. It's not indigenous wisdom.
Yeah, I got it. I caught that.
We steal everything, you know? The cultural attaché. What's it called? Cultural cringe? No. Cultural appropriation. Shoplifting the spirit. Because they were peaceful people. Like, I mean, they may have had conflicts between the tribes, but they had a thing called a coup, whereby instead of killing you in combat, they touched you. And that way they won if they touched you. It was a ritualized form of violence that didn't kill people. Okay. So of course we come with guns and bombs and kill everything, but we don't.
I didn't come. My family didn't come here voluntarily. Okay.
Oh,
we were bought here.
Yeah. There's a story too.
We didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
They bought us here. So
well, we're talking about reparations now, but I think reparations need to go back to the land and to the waters and apologize to the wilderness and to the bison who were slaughtered and to all the things that happened before they brought you here. Because the Civil War is a painful hemorrhage that's still happening, and slavery has now been ritualized into corporate warfare, and black people are murdered. Driving while black is a real thing.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. Oh, I've been knowing that. People just now catching on, but I've been knowing that.
Takes a while. But you're ahead of the field.
No, I'm not ahead of the field. I'm black. There's no head of the field. Let's get that straight. I've been stopped. My dad was stopped jogging while black in our all white neighborhood in Cedar Park.
Wow.
Okay? And we were the first family.
Yeah.
In the neighborhood. The neighborhood was built up around us. And my father put a light post up because it was dark.
Right.
So then the neighborhood was built up around us, and our next door neighbor, who was a white guy, my dad was jogging through the neighborhood. The police stopped my dad and asked him if he had been stealing. And our neighbor, who was a white guy, and again, the neighborhood was built up around us, had to vouch for my father. So the police wouldn't take him to jail.
Evil. Well, they say that there are certain crimes that are crimes of status, not crimes of criminal intention, like homosexuality, abortion, prostitution. They're all victimless crimes. So is the color of your skin and the color of your melanin. You know, to discriminate on people on a basis of color or culture is totally irrational. And you experience it viscerally, and this is just an intellectual thought to agreeing with you. But there are people dead out there because they didn't get it. They got free bullets and free cruelty, and slavery was part of that, and needs to be mentioned.
Still is, because there's a lot of people that sex trafficking.
Yeah, in Austin, by the way.
In Austin, yeah.
We had a venue in a clothing store run by a poet called Kathleen Romana. It was Odyssey, and she made clothes, beautiful secondhand clothes, and she made them rich and wonderful. And she had so much charisma in life. But her husband was a bit of a fascist, and he didn't let her be independently wealthy. So ultimately, she closed down the Odyssey poetry reading space and a clothing store. And then it became a place where sexual trafficking occurred on Koenig Lane, right?
Wow.
This is for real. The same
Hmm.
as you speak about being black and being harassed. This is absolutely happening now.
Yeah. So it's like the more things change, the more things stay the same.
Every cliche is true.
Is that's true? It's true. But let's not get out now. We're getting kind of in the dark.
That's all right. Okay, let's
We're
be
kind of
happy
getting
go
the
there.
dark. Let's try to.
Entertain me.
Yeah,
Entertain me. That's right.
we're getting a little dark here. We don't want to get
Nothing
all
wrong with
dark.
dark. Dark is cool. Boy,
Here we
I,
go.
I
Look,
discriminate against dark. Dark is
we're
everywhere.
going way over to the. We're going like they say in the on Star Wars. We're going
Yeah.
to the dark side. Let's not go to the dark side.
Well, the Chinese went there. Pink Floyd went there.
Let's do something. Let's do something a little light because it
Okay.
got
Okay.
real dark.
What's the alternative? Because people want to say, well, what can I do in this time of war? And the answer is to be peace. Bruce Lee said, be water. I say, be elemental. I say, be water, be air, be earth, be fire, be all of these things. Because by being attuned to everything that really is, all the other thing burns away. So,
Mhm,
water is an essential issue for Texas and particularly for Austin because we are the only capital city with a spring at the core, a
mm,
flowing spring. The spring, and there's a white buffalo mural in East Texas which shows the water courses as a buffalo and all the things like Kamal Springs and Barton Springs and all the other ones are all tied together because water is one. It's not divided. We
mhm,
divide it. It's like we divide people, we divide property, but water is one. And one day we're going to learn that we are made of water. We came from water, and one day we'll go back to water. But right now, we've got to honor and respect the quality of water and keep it flowing like spirit.
mhm, mhm.
So
Well,
focus on that.
but something that I do. See, I don't really like to talk about my volunteer work, but I'm going to because I'm hoping that people will follow suit.
Yeah.
Is that I go and I get water and I go and I give it to this church. You don't necessarily have to give it to a church, but I give it to this church called I think it's Sunshine Church on Shack, and they help the homeless people.
I
This
live around
church.
the corner from there.
Oh, you do?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That church is for real.
Yeah,
That's
that church is a real church.
you're
They
real.
do what they're supposed to do.
I
So
give
I
clothes.
collect. Right. So, I go over there whenever I can and I, donate water for
Hmm.
the homeless. I donate food.
Yep.
Christmas time, I came over there with a $50 gift card. Now, I'm not saying this. I don't see, because then people are going to think, oh, she's bragging on herself.
No, no, no. It's
And
not that.
I'm not doing that. What I am saying is that if you can, everybody cannot, but if you can, even you just go to the Dollar General, pick
Hmm.
up something, even because they need socks, they need underwear,
Yep.
they need personal hygiene products, you know. So if you can, you can go to Dollar General. I go to Dollar General a lot. Go to Dollar General and pick up something and drop it off. And then also when the we had these bad tornadoes here,
Yeah.
I went and I picked up a lot of products for women, and I took it to my church and I dropped it off because they were helping the Texas tornado victims. So I think how I serve and how I contribute is not a lot, but it's the best that I can do. I don't, I'm not rich by any means, but I try. So if you can, I'm not saying, spend your last dollar, but if you have like, $5, go over there to the Dollar General and get some water or whatever you can get and give it to a homeless shelter wherever you live. Go take it to a homeless shelter because they would really appreciate it. And there's a lot of people who were on the edge of being homeless that are now homeless
Hmm.
because, especially in Austin, because we have all these companies coming from out of state driving up the cost of living here.
And not paying taxes.
Exactly. And people who already were on the edge of being homeless are now homeless.
Yep, true.
If
You're
we
right.
you know,
I
so
go to the homeless memorial down by the Stevie Ray Vaughan statue. There's a tree dedicated to the homeless, and one they used to put the names of the homeless on dog tags and hang them from the tree.
mm,
Uh, what happens is they print up the names of the people who died on the street. When I first started going, there was something like 52 people died on the streets of Boston. Okay, come back at 67, come back at 79, come back at 92. This year, 129 people died on the streets of Austin, and I knew some of them.
hmm
Two of them were poets, and that broke my heart because poets aren't supposed to die; they're supposed to live forever. It's not your poetry that lives; it's you that lives. So
mm,
what you're doing is fantastic. But I never go to Dollar General; I go to Dollar Tree. It's cheaper.
right. Yeah, well, whichever.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying, folks.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all I'm saying. I'm not, but again, this is not something that I like to talk about because I don't want it to be taken the wrong way. That
Right.
she's bragging on herself or she wants to let everybody know that she's good. I'm saying it because I really would like. Whew,
It's
I
good.
don't see
Mm.
how we can live in such a rich country and we have homeless people. That
2008.
that blows my mind, people.
Mm-hmm.
This country is so wealthy. You go downtown in downtown Austin and you see all these new shiny buildings and all these new people, all these new oh my god, I'm getting choked up.
High rise.
All these high rises and
Mm-hmm.
you see all these new corporations that have moved here.
Yeah, and then
And then
look at the
right and
underpass.
then you look and then there's a homeless person's in the doorway
Correct.
of this beautiful building and people are walking by them
Mm-hmm.
and it hurts. I can't even tell you how much it hurts me.
But you
And
mean you're
that's
doing something? You're doing something. We used to have a thing called expressions at the Baha'i Center, and it was
mhm,
once a month. And what we had there was a bucket called the Poet's Pantry, and we took food from the Poet's Pantry to Baptist Chapel, to Caritas, to all the places that directly benefited the homeless. And I prefer direct. My friend goes around with water in his car and a bar,
mhm,
tapes them
mhm,
together in a dollar bill, and direct to because you look as human beings, eye to eye,
mhm,
and it's not through Salvation Army or any of the other media. It is directly affirming their existence and saying,
mhm.
"Here's what I can give," and
Right.
people respond. It's a beautiful gift they give is in
Mhm,
re- acceptance.
right.
So thank you for crying. Robots can't
No,
cry.
I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying.
Cry, cry,
I
cry.
get emotional.
Yes, yes. You must be emotional.
I get
You must.
very emotional. So
Yeah,
when it comes to homeless people, I just
yeah.
do because you just never know. That could be you, people.
One paycheck away.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody thinks, oh, that will never be me.
Oh
You,
yes,
especially in America, that could be you.
yes.
So, That's why not just because it could be me, but you know, I see. I don't try to close my eyes. I actually see. And a lot of people don't want to see, or they see and it's like, well, I got mine. I did what I was supposed to do. I got my luxury car or
Yeah.
whatever, and I got my big house, and that don't have anything to do with me. I got mine, but
Hmm.
anyway, that's just my take on it. I got on a riff.
Can I give you a joyful way
Here.
to affirm what you're doing? This is called, if anything justifies life, it's life itself. Love and art and people fade oblivious. Depths of waters conceal no hidden meaning than core affords, hollow and obvious, colored by moods, lost in logic slants. We kill closed categories before we know it all. Why are we so imprisoned? Why are we so imprisoned? If images collide, knock against your walled life, if wings are clipped without your knowing, if reason fails for want of words, there seems no cure. Find what you know, return to it. More seems lost than is preserved. In your own rhythms, hold tight to those with whom you share your hopes, because a poem is just a small bird, delicate as a colored second. It flies like a kite, lives in your shadow skin, dies when the light of day, sun, or words is cast upon to melt its meaning. We are, despite all, still alive. Joy in this above all things now, Janine. Can you sing with us? Can you sing?
Wow. Ooh, that was awesome.
Shine
My
on.
friend is so awesome, guys. He is just, when he invited me to what's that thing at the English cafe? What
The
was
Full
that?
English Cafe. Full English
Full
Cafe. Yeah.
English Cafe.
Yeah.
After we met at the library, and
Yeah.
he told me about the Full English Cafe, which is no longer here in Austin. That closed down. So it's a vegan restaurant now.
Yeah.
But he invited me to that, and I was not sure if I wanted to go. And I was like, what if I go and I'm not really a poet? And just like all this doubt
Yeah.
was just in me. And I was like, what if they don't like me? And I'm gonna come in here and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I went, and everybody was just so friendly and welcoming and giving. And I really enjoyed that. And I really miss it. We
Well,
meet
we've got it.
online now.
We're live at Quacks, which is right near where Full English used to be. You just
Right.
go in that same small, and we're live at the Lazy Days on Thursdays, which is near Quacks. And
Hmm.
there is a reading at Reverie Bookstore right next to Quacks and Lazy Days. That
Hmm.
area where Full English was, the Full English may have closed down because of COVID, but new things, new seeds are rising up, and they're all
Hmm.
small, loving, kind, free, organic, and no money's exchanged. Just come on in, have a cup of coffee, and let's hear you.
Well, on
So,
Thursday, I'm getting my teeth done. I cracked, I
oh,
cracked three of my teeth. I grind my teeth, and
yeah,
so I got to get that done. So I won't be able to make it.
that's a
So
high
hope,
priority. But
but
Monday,
hope,
maybe
yeah.
more.
We shall see. I don't know if I'm gonna be in town this weekend, or if I'm gonna be here or not. My
Right.
nephew, my
Yeah.
nephew, guys, is getting sworn in as a lawyer on Sunday.
Whoa, yeah.
Woo!
Whoa, that's wonderful. That is really, really good.
Yes, I'm so excited. So I don't know if I'm going to that or not. I'm trying to figure out if I want to go to his swearing in, and that's
Yeah.
in Dallas, Texas. So that's gonna be mind blowing because he's been saying he wants to be a lawyer since he was 8 years old.
Well, he's got his dream. Those are good
Yeah, he
dreams.
did. Yeah. I'm glad somebody got it because I don't have mine yet. Where's my
You,
dream? Where's
you sing.
mine?
You
Oh,
sing. You sing like angels. You make other people happy with your voice. It's a really good thing.
I can
Everybody
sing.
does. And also, you're happy, which is a really rare thing. to share happiness is probably the greatest gift, because so people are so caught in reaction and fear and smallness. You expand and you
Ah!
pass the joy on.
You want me to sing a little something, something?
Well, please, would you sing?
Okay, let me get some water, child. Hold on.
Okay. And here's me.
Let me drink something real quick.
By the way, all the people listening, you can do this wherever you are. Just find people who you like and meet together and call it poetry.
Yep. Okay, let me. You want some opera, Tom?
I want opera.
Okay, Tom loves opera. Let me think. This morning when I came awake, there was a body in full bloom, looking right in my window. I knew her when she was a bud just the other day. Now she's a rose, come to stay until her leaves fall off. When they're all off, she'll go away. She won't be a rose, but she'll return, she knows. She won't go far, and I'll save her leaves in my rose jar.
Magical. Wonderful.
Okay, Robert Harrison.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my cousin.
Okay.
He says, where can he find your publications?
Okay. I'm on. My performances are on YouTube. Look for Thom the Street Poet, Thom the World Poet. Red Dragon Press in San Antonio prints my books. That's redking44@gmail.com. But my poetry is not as important as your own creations. The whole point of sharing poetry is that some little fire is ignited in the eyes and heart of everyone else. And you're seeing. I only ever wrote one song, by the way. Can I share it with you? It's a short
Yeah,
one.
sure.
It's based on Elvis Costello, his record called "Get Happy." You gotta shoulder your tiny burden. You gotta pick up your crucifix. And if you're buying your wood for burning, you gotta be the genuine mystic. You gotta be the one they crave for. You gotta be the heartfelt one. And if you want to play God for the mob, son, you gotta expect to be overdone. Steak on the sandwich, souvlaki on the steak. Will you be there? Steak on the plate. Will they carve you up before it's just too late? Will you be just a name on a graveyard plot? I tell you now, son, Buddhists burn well. I tell you now, son, it's warm down hell. And you want to play hero as well? Well, swing on your own private hope. Yeah, swing on your own private dope. Yeah, believe in yourself if you want hope, because no one else will trust you if you don't. Yeah.
Okay, that was great, Tom. I don't even know what to say. Tom is amazing. I'm
Oh,
so
goodness.
glad that he is in my life.
Yes,
He
for life.
makes a difference.
Yeah.
He makes a difference, people. He's an artist, he's an activist, he's all that in a bag of chips.
Yes, that's good. That's
So
English.
with that, we're gonna go ahead and end the
Oh,
broadcast.
oh, oh, before you
Oh,
do,
go ahead,
uh,
Tom.
to answer the question, where can people get poetry? I send out poetry every day on worldpoet@rocketmail.com. So new poems every day. If you send an email to worldpoet, one word, @rocketmail.com, you'll be inundated with all these silly ideas like love, peace, happiness, justice, equality, fairness, cooperation, community, goodwill, and it's free. I'm published every day in England in a thing called Gonzo Blog. So if you look up Gonzo Blog in Devon, you'll find a Tom poem for the last 10 years, fresh every day. So that's how to contact them. More of this joyful optimism that we share, Janine.
Great.
worldpoetrocketmail.com, and Gonzo blog in England. Almost rhymes.
England.
England,
Right.
England,
England.
man. England, man. England.
So we're gonna go ahead. If you like this broadcast, uh, so share it with your friends because, like I said, Tom is all that in a bag of chips. So share
I
this.
love it. I love it.
Share this with your friends. Share this with your family. Share it with whoever that you know. And also like and subscribe to my channel, people. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So help a sister out. Okay. Thank you again, Thom the Poet. Give it up.
Yay.
Woo!
People. Janine, the singer. Yeah. Everywhere. Yeah. Hubba.
Yeah.
Hubba. Bag of chips.
Woo! Yeah, bag of chips.
Woo-hoo.
Bag of chips. Woo!
Bag of chips. 3 words
Okay.
that mean so much. Bag of chips.
Bye, everybody. I'm going to end the
Bye,
broadcast.
y'all. Nice to
Bye,
meet you.
y'all.
What do I do now?